Okay, and now to our last video of this section, V5, ecology. Ecology looks all pretty here in our slide, but really, when we're talking about ecology or the study of ecology, what are we really referring to? Ecology is the science of, there's one word you should think of whenever you hear ecology. You should think of the science of interactions. Ecology really is the study of how living things interact with their biotic and abiotic environments. How do living things, let me come back, sorry. How do living things interact with their environment and with each other? So let's consider first off what those terms mean, biotic and abiotic. Biotic refers to living things, other organisms. It can be something of the same species, it can be a predator, it can be a food source, it could be a fungus, it can be a bacteria growing on them, but anything that's going to interact with them on a living level is considered a biotic factor. Non-living factors are abiotic. And think here again about stuff we've already discussed. Nitrogen, phosphorus, you know, calcium, salts. Any of the chemicals are going to be considered non-living. Gases are non-living. The soil, air, temperature, humidity, any of those environmental factors that are not alive are considered abiotic. So what? Why does that matter if we have biotic and abiotic factors? Um, because of the interactions. This is something you've probably seen before. This is a food web, and it shows who eats whom in a particular area. Notice, though, that this is strictly based on biotic interactions. You're not seeing here the effect of water temperature or salinity, the amount of salt that's in there, or dissolved oxygen. This is strictly looking at biotic interactions, and we'll come back to food webs. But when you start throwing in gases and energy and water and temperature, you can see already from this chart, it just got more complicated just by flip the slide here to look at some other factors. What if this particular system had a pollutant in it? How would it affect the organisms there? And what you're often going to find is it's not going to be easy to tell. One factor can affect multiple parts of the interactions that are part of ecology. And finally, let me just end this slide or this show here. I'm going to go away for a second. Let's just look at the interactions that we could study if we're trying to understand ecology. How do the things fit together in the environment? We could look at the interactions that occur at the individual level. That is, what are the interactions this individual has by just being alive? Or we could look at populations, how individuals interact with each other. These populations can potentially, for example, reproduce or compete for food. We can go to another level up, which is to consider the community level. How do groups of organisms interact? How do how does a population of moose interact with the trees and the vegetation and the owls and the beavers and whatever else is in this area? You can go to the ecosystem level. Ecosystem level now considers the abiotic factors. So how does this community interact with water sources and temperature and nutrients that are available? We consider ecosystems interacting on a level to form the biome level. And we've already talked about biomes a little bit, that biomes are going to be particular climates that have similar temperature and moisture, which then influences the things that live there. And then the biosphere is the biggest level, which is how do all of the things on Earth interact on some level that can influence life on Earth. So we will talk about briefly in class these different levels. We'll spend some time on the population and community levels in particularly and talk about why these are so important for us to understand. So this is ecology. Ecology is the study of interactions. And this is going to be very important for us to understand as we move forward as a society, as we keep changing the environment, what are the potential possibilities and outcomes of doing any change? We'll find out more about some things we already know about ecology coming up soon.